Welcome to UBP TV. We have seen several negative surprises in the first quarter. Low activity in the US due to severe weather conditions, renewed turmoil in some emerging countries, geopolitical uncertainties with Ukraine and Russia, and finally the Fed, which prepares its exit strategy while the ECB has not yet delivered new stimulus. What could we expect for this second quarter? First, the US growth should accelerate. US fundamentals remain positive and the activity should regain on a more positive momentum in the second quarter. Confidence is high in the manufacturing sector and it has significantly rebounded for households recently. Higher capex and solid consumption should drive the economy and a higher growth trend close to 3%. We continue to expect strong growth figures in the US and maintain our 3.4% growth this year, above the 2.7% estimated by the consensus. Second, growth in European peripherals should surprise positively. The trend remains positive in the Eurozone. I think there is still potential to see some positive surprises coming from European peripheral countries. Spain and Portugal should continue to recover, and the surprises could come from renewed corporate capex and more positive story from the consumer side. In Italy, the reforms promised are crucial to give a new boost to the economy and liberalize further the private sector. Confidence has increased after the arrival of the new Prime Minister, Mr. Renzi. So there are potential good surprises if these reforms are really implemented. We remain confident on Eurozone and maintain our growth scenario of 1.3%, which is slightly above the consensus. Third, Japan. Uncertainties could rise due to the rise in VAT. The Japanese economy could face some headwinds with the implementation of the rise in VAT in April. This should slow down consumption and lead to temporary GDP contraction. There is also the risk that the fiscal package given to the corporate sector will not totally compensate for the drop in consumption in the short run. I do imagine that the BOJ will face rising pressures from the government to increase its quantitative easing, which should lead to another step of a Japanese yen devaluation. Fourth point, some stabilization could be seen in emerging countries and also on the geopolitical front. In China, growth in the second quarter is expected to stabilize after the slowdown seen in the first quarter. I do not expect new fiscal measures to be launched by the government. We already know the sectors and the themes the government favored, such as social housing, urbanization, anti-pollution and highways. These sectors should replace the export sector as engines for growth in the medium term, but the reforms and particularly the cleaning of the housing and financial sectors will probably remain a burden during the first semester. On the geopolitical front, it is obvious that Russia and Western economies have common interest to avoid economic sanctions. It is now turned to diplomatic negotiation to find some kind of agreement. And the last point, the most positive good surprise in the second quarter could be the ECB finally delivering more support. The door has been opened in favor of new measures. The Bundesbank has agreed to consider new non-conventional measures in case of rising risks. If a quantitative easing seems difficult to justify now in the Eurozone and also difficult to implement, the launch of new LTROs, or new liquidity for banks, associated with some incentives to deliver credit, could be an interesting option to boost the ongoing recovery. To conclude, what could we expect for this second quarter? The answer is globally more good surprises. We expect a pickup in growth for the second quarter, driven by a rebound in the US, and an accelerating growth trend in European peripherals. In China, the activity should also stabilize around 7%. Renewed support from the ECB and the BOJ should also give new stimulus to growth and confidence in these two regions. Thank you and see you soon on UBP TV.